Hey, welcome to Solving Triangle Problems. This is the second time that I'm attempting this video. The last one was very long, and considering I'm only going to go through one question, it was too long. So let's try again. If you get a question in an exam that is about triangles, that is trying to find a missing angle or missing side or some kind of information to do with triangles, the chances are they are going to make it more difficult than just a straightforward use cosine rule to find this missing side. For example, they will usually be within a worded question. You might have to draw the diagram yourself, and more than likely you're going to have to use more than one rule, or use sometimes even the same rule multiple times to find the piece of information that they're asking you for. So really quickly, and much quicker than I did it last time, I'm going to go through just the main things to think about when you get a question like this, and then we will attempt a question, and I will try to do it in less than 40 minutes because that's how long the last video was. Okay, so here we have so you've got a question that's it's something to do with a triangle. You need to decide which rule do I use, and there I am looking very puzzled. First of all, always check for right angles. If you can use SOHCAHTOA, so right angle trigonometry, or Pythagoras even, they'll be much easier to use. So if you can use them, do it, okay? Don't be that person who uses cosine rule for absolutely everything, even when there's a right angle, because it'll take you longer, there's more risk of making mistakes, and it's just not very efficient. So always check for right angles first. If definitely doesn't have a right angle, then move on to these lovely coloured boxes. So if you are trying to find a side, there are kind of two scenarios that you could have. So you are given two angles and an opposite side. So kind of two side angle pairs with a piece of information or one of the sides missing, and that's what you need to work out. Then you would use sine rule, or if you're being asked to find a side and you have two sides and the angle between them, then that is when you would go ahead and use cosine rule. So those are the conditions that you need to have in place before you can use each of the two rules. Or if you are trying to find an angle, if you have two sides and an opposite angle, so again, two side angle pairs, but this time there's an angle missing out of one of those pairs, then you can use sine rule. If you have all three sides, then you can use cosine rule to find any one of the angles you want, really, but definitely the specified one that the question has asked you for. Then you can use cosine rule. And obviously, I thought I'd put it in just to make sure I've covered all bases, but if you are being asked to find the area, use half AB sine C. Again, check to see if there's a base and a height. If there's a right angle in it, you are going to be able to use base times height divided by 2, because you'll be able to see what the base is and what the height is based on where the right angle is. But if there's not, half AB sine C, and that will get you the area of the triangle. But again, you still need to have two sides and the angle between them to be able to use this formula. So chances are you might have to use a different rule to find a piece of information before you can do that. So let's have a look at that in action. Here you have the location of 4 mobile phone masts in a field. So you've got A, B, C, and D. In order so that they don't interfere with each other, they must be at least 70 meters apart. Given that A is the minimum distance from B, so this is, so given that A is the minimum distance from D, this is the smallest that it can be. We need to find the distance from A to B, so we need to find this line. We need to find the angle BAD, which is this angle, and we need to find the area enclosed by the 4 masts, so the area of that shape. First thing to note, that is not a triangle, okay? That is a quadrilateral, it has 4 sides. So you are going to need to make it a triangle. So let's draw in a line across the middle. You could do it horizontally if you wanted and join A and C, but I'm going to do it this way. So now we have two triangles, triangle BDC and triangle BAD. And we have to use that information to find this side. So I'm going to call it Y. Now, if we just look at this triangle on the left, which is the one where we're trying to find the missing side, there is not much information on it. We know that this side is 70 and that's it. We don't know anything else. We've split this angle in two, but it is definitely not split down the middle. You can see just by looking, but even if you don't trust the diagram, we have not. There is nothing to imply that that has been split equally. So those two angles are probably going to be different. So we don't know the size of this angle or this one. So we're going to have to work it out as we go through the question. So we need to kind of start putting some information on here. So using this triangle, what information about it can we work out? So at the minute, all we have on this triangle is two sides and this angle 55. Again, we don't know what this is because we split it up. It's not 140 anymore and we don't know exactly what size it is. So all we have is this side, which is 75, this side, which is 80, and this angle of 55. So we have two sides and the angle between them, which means we can use cosine rule to find this length BD. Okay, there's a big fly. Go away. We can find this line BD using cosine rule. I'm going to call it X, and I'm going to say that X squared is equal to 75 squared plus 80 squared minus 75 times 80 times, minus 2 times, trying to do it too quick. I'm just very aware of how long it took me to do this last time, so I'm trying to do it quicker. Times 80 times cos A, which is 55. Work that out. I'm going to just put it straight in my calculator, which I know I said isn't best practice, but so I'm not going to do it. Let's work some of it out. 5625 is 75 squared. 80 squared is 6,400. Minus 2 times 75 times 80 times cos 55 gives me 6882.9 and all of that. Without deleting that from my calculator, I'm going to simplify it. So I have 5625 plus 6,400 minus that answer gives me 5,142.08, and again a really long decimal. To get my x, I need to square root that answer, which gives me 71 point. Now I'm going to leave a good few decimal places here, so that I'm not rounding too early and making my answer less accurate. I'm going to leave 4 decimal places, so I have 7083. So this is my length of x. So this length here is now 71.7083. Okay. Now that I've got that, I can start to work out, or I can reevaluate what information I have on this triangle BAD. But I still only have 2 sides. I still have no information about the angles. I can't do anything about this side until I know something about at least one of the angles in there. If I have this angle, now that I've got these 2 sides, if I have this angle, then I can use cosine rule to find y. But I can't do it yet. So I need to go back. Now that I've got all 3 sides of this triangle, I can work out this angle. Once I know this one, I can take it away from 140 to get this angle. I could use cosine rule, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use sine rule because it's easier to work with, basically. So I am going to use a different colour. Might use green. I'm going to call this angle that I am trying to find angle B, which makes this side B, and I'm going to call this 55 angle A, which makes this side A. And I am going to do, it's not the way I wanted to do it, but never mind. I am going to do sin B over 75 is equal to sin 55 over 71.7083. still leaving those decimal places in there. So that means b is equal to sin minus 1. I'm doing that all in one step. I'm multiplying the 75 over, and I am inversing, doing the inverse of sin. So the sin minus 1, sin 55 times by 75 over 71708. When I type that in my calculator as it is, that gives me sin 55 times 75. Oh no. Hang on. Stop it. Times, sorry, I'm just talking to my calculator. Times by 71.708. There we go. That gives me 58 point. Again, I'm going to leave 4 decimal places just to be safe for 5 degrees, and that is what B is. 58.949545, which means that this angle, this ADB angle, is 140 minus that answer, which gives me 81. So I'm just going to write it. Angle ADB is equal to 81 point. Let me write what I've done. I've done 140 minus 58.954, etc. And that gives me 81.0455. So now that I know that, so this angle here is 81.0455. Now that I know that, I can use cosine rule to finish this question off. I'm even starting to run out of space because it is very long. I've already used cosine rule and sine rule, and I am still not finished. So to find y, finally, we are going to use cosine rule. I'm going to say y squared is equal to 70 squared plus 71.7083 squared minus 2 times 70 times 71.7083 times cos 81.0455. Lots of numbers there. But yeah, using cosine rule and the values that we've worked out gives me 70 squared is 4,900. 71.7083 squared is 5,140.080289. 2 times 70 times 71.7083 times cos 81.0455 is, so I'm minusing 1,562.59, etc. Put that into my calculator. 4,900 plus 142 plus 0.289 minus that answer is 8,479.48, etc. To find y, I need to square root that. So square root my answer gives me 92.1 meters, not centimeters, to 3 significant figures. I am going to make a note of it on my diagram as being 92.0841, so that I have lots of decimal places. But when I round it correctly, that is what I get, 92.1. Okay. Lots going on there, but none of it is impossible. That's your final answer. You've used cosine rule, you've used sine rule, you've used cosine rule again. You could have literally used cosine rule 3 times. You could have used cosine rule to find this angle B here if you'd wanted to. You could have used the same rule 3 times. It is entirely up to you, but I have chosen to use sine rule just because I find it easier to work with. But that's just personal preference. let's keep going, because again, I'm conscious that I don't want this to be 40 minutes long. Here you have the same diagram, and now we are trying to work out this angle BAD. So it's still split in two. I'm going to just copy this over so I have all of the lengths that I've written on so far. Copy it. Do I just add a new page? That's probably a good idea. Here we go. Paste, and we are trying to find this angle BAD. On this triangle on the the left-hand side now, on triangle BAD, I now have all three sides. I have one of the angles. And again, so that means I could use cosine rule or I could use sine rule here. I'm going to use sine rule because, again, I find that easier. So I'm not going to use green. What color should I use that I haven't used already? No, I will use green. This is going to be angle A. This side I have already labelled little side A, and then I'm going to use this 81.0455 as my angle B, which means my Y value for the side BA is going to be little b. Let's work it out. So I'm trying to work out an angle, so I'm using this flipped version of the formula. So I have sin A over 71.7083 is equal to sin 81.0455 over 92.0841. That means A is equal to sin minus 1 of sin 81 times 71 divided by 92. Obviously, I'm putting the full decimal places in, but I just can't cope with saying all these numbers out loud anymore. Okay, put that in my calculator. 81 times 71.83 over 92.80841. Close the bracket, and that gives me, oh no, I've typed in something wrong. What have I done? Did I not close that bracket? I didn't close that bracket. Here we go. 50.285. I'm going to write it to 4 decimal places first in case I need it, which is 50.3 degrees to 3 significant figures. And that's that second question answered. That's part B done. Much easier. Once you've got that really long first question done, it's so much easier to work the rest out. Okay. I'm going to write, where's my question going? I'm going to write this angle in. So I'm going to put it on the outside because I was starting to run out of room. 50.2853. I'm going to copy that question or this diagram with all my information on, and I'm going to use it to answer the last part. So the last part is to find the area enclosed. To do that, I'm going to have to use, if I rip this bit out, I'm going to have to use the half AB sine C, but I'm going to have to use it twice because obviously I have two triangles. It doesn't work for a quadrilateral, unfortunately. So there's my diagram, and I'm working out the area. So I'm going to call this triangle 1 and this triangle 2. So to do 1, I'm going to do area is equal to a half times by, I'm going to use, remember I have to use two sides and the angle between them. I'm going to use this part just because the numbers are easier. So I'm doing a half times 75 times 80 times sin 55, which gives me an area of a half times 75 times 80 times sin 55 gives me an area of 2,457.4561. It's not centimetres, it is metres. Metres squared. For triangle 2, which sides shall I use? Which ones are easier? I'm going to use this 70, this angle BAD we've just worked out, and this value we got for Y. So I'm going to do area is 70, sorry it's not, it's a half times 70. A half times 70 times 92.0841 times by sin 50.2853. Put it in my calculator and then I'm nearly done. 70 times 92.0841 times sin 50.2853, close my bracket, 2,479.203023. Okay, finally, we're nearly there. Total area, we need to add those two things together. So I'm going to add on to my answer 2,457.4561. And I get 4,936.659 to three significant figures. That is 4,940. Didn't ask for three significant figures, but that's what I've done for every question. So I'm just going to continue. I'm not going to change it. Okay? And we're done. It's a lengthy question. There's a lot going on here. Obviously, once you've done the first part, the second two, part B and C, are made a lot easier. You only have to use one formula each time. You might have to use it twice for two different triangles, but you're not having to go around the world to find the missing piece of information. I hope that helped. I hope I haven't gone through it too quickly, but I am very aware that the last time I tried to do this, it took way too long and it wouldn't even let me upload it to YouTube. So I hope you've understood that. Pause it, make sure it makes sense in your head. Do it yourself as well, to make sure that you've understood. And that's a typical kind of exam question where you are having to do a lot of work to work out the information that is needed. Have a lovely day. Thanks for listening to what I'm sure is still a very lengthy video. Thank you.